Welcome to the Group Home Riches Podcast. If you have the desire to be your own boss, create your own schedule, and become financially free while at the same time helping people in need, then you've come to the right place. At grouphomeriches.com, we teach people exactly like yourself how to get started in the group home business. And on this podcast, you're going to hear their stories firsthand. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Group Home Riches Podcast. Today's guest is a real estate investor, group home owner, and operator, as well as he does a little bit of credit repair and financing. So it's a topic we haven't really talked about on the podcast that I'm sure a lot of you guys probably have questions from and can gain a ton of value from. So Lonnie, excited to have you on. Welcome.
Hey, thanks, Brandon. I'm excited to be here. And I really want to start out the podcast not by stealing your shine, but saying thank you for the class that you set up. It's made my family lots of money and brought us lots of success. And I just want to say thank you. And we're glad that we are members and that we follow the instructions and did everything to the T given to us in the ebook. We appreciate you as well.
Love to hear it, man. That's why we do it. So before we kind of get into your story and talking credit and stuff like that, why don't you give the folks just an introduction and then a background on yourself?
Sure. Well, as you mentioned, my name is Lonnie Grady. My wife is the fantastic and the sensational Sheena Grady. And I'm always proud to let everyone that meets me or hear my voice know that I am from a small town called Kinston, North Carolina. And I'm a proud alumni of North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University, North Carolina A&T Aggie Pride. I went to school to be an educator. I have some relatives that play basketball. My brother, most notably, he's deceased, but he played basketball at college level. And I have another brother who's a barber. My dad's a former professional fighter, and my mother was a 30-year nurse. And so because of sports and what my parents did for a living, my brothers and I were just always taught to give back. Then when I went to A&T, we learned more about giving back through my fraternity, Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. And so I pride myself on being a good teammate, a good coach, a good teacher. And I taught for 12 years in the public school systems in North Carolina, in Greensboro and in Winston-Salem. And just through teaching, I just realized over time that I could do more for the community as well as myself and my family if I actually had hands-on in the community. And so I left teaching and I started a series of businesses, one of which was real estate investing. And that's what led me to find and look up Group Home Riches, as I was looking for a way to help people who couldn't afford to rent a house because of inflation, but they still needed somewhere to go. And not only that, but it was also a way to, I'd be remiss if I didn't say, it was also a way to generate more profits on a regular rental than, someone staying in your house and you're making $150 or $250 a month forever.
Yeah, rewind that back for the folks that maybe aren't too educated on real estate investing or they're curious about it. We kind of talk about it a lot in our content, but 150 to 200, what do you mean by that? What does that mean?
Sure. So the average, I don't have the exact number, but through my real estate investing training, I didn't just go out willy-nilly and start wholesaling or knocking on people's doors. Lord, no. I took classes, I read books, I invested in my education when it came to real estate investing. My wife did, I did. We spent 8 hours on Zooms, reading books, quizzing each other, role playing with each other, how to talk to someone that wants to sell their house or rent their house. And so I say all that to say the average landlord makes somewhere between $150 and $350 a month on their property. And we didn't want to get into real estate to make $150
exactly.
or $350 a month. We didn't want that. And so, outside of flipping a house to do well, we wanted to create different revenue streams that we could get and still maintain the house and gain wealth by that equity growing every single year over the course of time and pulling out tax-free cash by doing cash out refis. But in order to make that work, like I said, we just couldn't, we were not happy and the math didn't work out and it wasn't worth our time or effort to have a house and, you know, we're paying $1,000 on the mortgage and we're making 1050 or 1125. We were not interested in that.
Yeah, this is what we tell our students all the time. This is why landlords make the perfect partners if you're like an operator and you really want to be hands-on. So for the folks out there listening, maybe they're not real estate investors, but maybe they're working in the nursing field, medical field. Maybe you even work at a group home. You know, imagine out there the real estate investors that you guys think are just multimillionaires bringing in thousands of dollars in cash every single property. It's not the case. The majority of people, you know, they go to school for it. They invest in classes like Lonnie, you had mentioned that, and the real estate courses, you know, they're thousands, right? They're not like the gold course, right? It's thousands. Education, you need to come up with capital to get the property, more capital to get to fix it up. You need to learn construction. After all that, if you do it perfectly, you're going to make 150 to 300 bucks per month, which so yeah, you know, put yourself in the landlord's shoes. And that's why kind of getting ahead of ourselves. But for the folks listening out there, that's why landlords make the perfect partners. So we'll rewind a little bit, Lonnie. So how many properties roughly did you have before you started looking into different strategies and then found us?
So I started looking into different strategies before I had my first one.
Nice.
10, 11 years ago, just because I had did a lot of financial research and read a lot of self-help books. And I wasn't a landlord yet, but I kind of knew what their problems would be. And I realized really quickly back when I lived in North Carolina, I'm in Virginia now, back when I lived in Greensboro, North Carolina, I realized really quickly that just because you ask someone to pay you $1,900 a month, it doesn't mean you're going to find someone who's willing to do it. And so I knew pretty early on that I had to find a creative way to maximize the monthly cash flow on a property. And just because of my background as a teacher, I used to sometimes help some of my fellow teachers who couldn't control the classroom. I used to help them with some of their special education kids and some of their kids that might have outbursts or something in the class. And so I knew that some of those students would ride a bus to a group home after school. Well, knowing that, and I knew how much that group homes made for the owners and the operators of the home. And so, you know, just doing a bunch of Google searches and reading books on group homes, I knew that they had different ways to do that. You have older kids, aged out foster kids. You just had different populations that needed access to a house, and you could get more or gain more revenue because you can do it by the room or by the bed, which is how they survive and they profit wildly. And so I knew I wouldn't be able to profit wildly because I wasn't going to go back and, you know, get a license or anything like that. But I knew I could make more with a rooming or a bed situation than I could by putting like a single dad or a single mom or a single family in a house, which would, you know, do well for them and do okay for me. But I knew I could do more and serve more people at the same time.
Beautiful. So you kind of figured it out kind of on your own. This was a while ago, like 10 years ago, you said?
I'll say that, I'm thinking back here, I will say that I was focused mainly on teaching and credit and things of that nature until 2012. And 2012 is when I started really putting my hands on houses and getting involved in real estate and talking to landlords. And I didn't know it then, but just talking to a couple of uncles that were tired landlords and talking to my neighbors who were renting, who knew their landlord was tired. I kind of developed a no fear attitude about talking to people who needed to sell their property or who were tired of renting their property out. And so I never had that hurdle once I went 100% into real estate where I was afraid or didn't know what to say to a landlord or to someone who was selling their property, and I can buy it cash at a discount, which would give me the room to reformat the house to maximize the beds or the rooms or to buy it cheaper.
Bingo. Okay, cool. So you kind of figured it out back when you were doing like this was in the research phase. You were kind of always like open to the business model.
Yes, very open. And I'm glad you said that word research, because a lot of people, because I'm a teacher, and my kids hate it, that they see me reading or on the computer with headphones on. They know, don't bother me, some people love going to Puerto Rico. I love sitting on the computer and researching or reading a book. And so it was a lot of research involved. I really enjoyed it. I had music on in the background. I was eating Twizzlers, drinking water, but I spent a lot of time researching. And so the obstacles that some people may have, my wife and I just kind of knew what to do when those obstacles came up, and because we spent a lot of time just researching, reading, and, we went forward and we fixed and addressed mistakes as we were going forward. And so, the research really played a big key. And so I was open to different revenue streams when it came to real estate. And then I said, I found you guys online.
Beautiful. Yeah, a lot of our clients, they kind of fall into real estate investing. But if you have the real estate investing knowledge ahead of time, like you did, this can be the perfect 1-2 punch, right? You know how to find the properties at a discount. So you're already getting equity. It's going to cash flow since you are getting it at a discount. You know how to fix them up. And then you combined that with the model taught in the gold course. And it seemed like you were pretty much off to the races once you started taking action after that researching phase.
Yes, absolutely. Without a doubt. Absolutely. Off to the races as fast as the flash or the reverse flash. I mean, we were so excited. And, one of my fraternity brothers, his name is Marquis, he actually is a member and bought the book too. And, he called me at 3 in the morning, or I called him at 2 in the morning, like, hey man, this is what we've been looking for forever. And so we were off to the races, and, we put your own personal flavor to it, a few tweaks here or there, but we were off to the races. We were excited, still are. And we're thankful every day.
Beautiful. And when did you get the gold course? Was this within the last couple of months, last couple of years?
It was the last couple of years. It was during the pandemic.
That's right. A good time to study. Nothing else to do but study, right?
Right. It was during the pandemic.
Cool. When you got it, so obviously you went through the course, the reading material, the videos and everything. When you did decide to like get out there and start taking action, did you have a property already, or what did that look like? Tell us about maybe like the first couple of steps to get the group home biz rocking and rolling.
Sure. I'll tell you, my wife and I actually had a property. We had 2 properties that we were flipping. We were rehabbing to resell, and they would have been perfect. We had wished that we would have been able to have kept those and used them. But shortly thereafter, we found a couple that fit perfect just because of their location and because the numbers at which we purchased them at. We purchased them as a real estate investor. We want to grab every property as possible while still getting the seller of the house what they need to get lost, for lack of a better term. We want to, if someone needs enough money to move, or if they need to sell the house to pay off some debt, or if mom died and left them a raggedy house and they only want 69, we want to give them 68, 750, And so we give them what they need and what they want to do what they need to do. But we had a couple of properties that we overpaid for, and we did it on purpose because, the seller was in a jam. And we have a mantra here in our house: for every 2 that we grab really cheap, we have to do something for one of the tenants or the next seller. And so we had a couple people that we bought houses from that really needed some extra money, more than we wanted to pay for the house. And we did that. And so we knew that we needed to make as much money as we could per month to offset what we would need to put down in cash when we close on the property. Usually we buy properties and we don't have to put anything down because our credit is good and we have enough lenders and investors. But if we overpay, we have to bring some cash to closing. And so we knew we wanted to get that back, before we could do a cash out refi and make a good amount per month, at least enough to cover a couple of bills at the house to make it worthwhile. And so shortly after we did a couple of flips, we found some properties that were really good and that we went to work right on those.
Beautiful. As far as like getting them filled, getting tenants in there, what was that process like?
So I'm going to tell you the truth, that process was easy. And I'll tell you for us, and I'll tell you why. Inside the Group Home Riches ebook, it tells you how to advertise and when to advertise and how to reach out to social services, veterans, different support groups, Salvation Army, all those groups. Well, what we did, and we have a member in the Facebook group, Johnny Trump, well-known member.
Yep.
And so he had actually mentioned that he had paid someone to go and data mine that information for him. So I went to Fiverr and I did the same thing, and I went on Fiverr, found someone who was really good at it. I think I paid him $57, something like that. In 3 days, he had me a gigantic spreadsheet of all of these companies in Richmond, Virginia, Chesterfield, Virginia, where I live, Petersburg, Virginia, Kinston, North Carolina, where I'm from, New Bern, North Carolina, where I had a property that was just sitting there. He had this big spreadsheet of all these companies and social services, Salvation Army, Goodwill, places that would have access to people and individuals who could be occupants and would not mind a rooming situation or a shared room situation. And so from there, it was as simple as deciding which companies we would reach out to, my wife and I, and which companies I would pay the guy on Fiverr to send an email out for on our behalf. And the responses were astronomical. We had more responses. We had so many responses that we had to tell people no, because we thought we started early, but we started too early because we had more people ready to go, like not now, but right now. And the house would need 2 or 3 more weeks in both. Right now we have 2 houses, working on the 3rd and the 4th. And in both instances, this won't always be the case for everybody, but maybe it would if they reach out to enough people. In both instances, we had a company that saw what we were doing. They saw how we were doing the houses. They went by, looked at the houses. I gave them like a drawing on how it would look when it was done. And they loved it so much that they just paid us. And then they manage the rotating doors. We don't even have to do anything. They pay us a really nice amount every month per house. And so we're kind of hands off because we put the effort into advertising and sending out hundreds and hundreds of emails and making hundreds and hundreds of calls.
Now, that's one of those situations that they come along every now and then. It's not typical, but that's a pretty sweet deal, especially if you're looking to be more of like a passive investor type. So why don't we break that down a little bit more? So you found through the marketing efforts, you ran into, was it a nonprofit or some type of social service organization, right?
Yes, both social service. So I can tell you what kind of company. I won't mention their name, but so both of them were an aged out foster program company. And so they actually helped younger people, between the ages of 19 and 27 who had aged out of foster care, but didn't have any credit because they were in foster home situations, didn't have any credit, didn't have any work experience. They found us and they needed a house that had rooms and multiple bathrooms so that they could help those occupants find safe and stable and clean housing. And so both of our houses, we had one company that, rents out both of our houses. and they keep a rotating door of people going in and out. One house has shared rooms and the other one does not.
Great. And that's perfect. So just kind of paint the picture for folks out there. This organization, they're probably funded, they probably get government grants, government programs to fund the organization. Aged out foster care, pretty kind of self-explanatory, but these kids are in foster care. Then I think it's at 17, right? When they're too old for foster care.
I think
Uh,
so. I think so.
then they're either, many of them end up on the street. I mean, in most metropolitan areas, you could go look outside, you see plenty of them on the street. This organization works with those kids, probably helps them to get jobs. They probably have caseworkers, counseling if they need it, and services like that, right?
Yes. Yeah, they do.
And then one of those services that they offer these, young adults, kids are, looking for housing, right? So, and Lonnie just provides the temporary transitional housing. And it sounds like this one, you don't have to do any managing of the tenants, no collections or anything like that. Your contract is with the organization and they're doing everything dealing with the kids, right?
Right, exactly. And all the way down to yard maintenance. Now we do have to perform maintenance on the house, and we do pay for the common areas of the house to get cleaned once a month, which is the least we can do. But the as far as managing the tenants and collecting, we don't have to do anything. We don't have to do any of that.
Yeah. So, I mean, nothing's fully passive, right? But that's pretty close, pretty
Yeah,
close
yeah.
to it. Now,
Yeah.
we're in Central Texas. Our like kind of average prices is around $600 per bed in a shared situation. And then, you guys could just do the math out there. We'll get like 4 or 5 bedroom homes, convert the garages. So that's kind of the typical type of cash flow that we get on our properties. It's probably similar in your area. You might not gross that much working with that organization, but I bet you it's worth it just to kind of be hands off and not have to worry about the managing and everything like that.
Yeah, we don't make so here, and I'm going just off some. Well, I do real estate investing, so I know a lot of the numbers in certain zip codes. Most zip codes actually. I know here, if I were to do that on my own, my wife and I, we could get between 500 to 800 per non-shared room per month. If we share the room, if we had 2 beds in the room, I'm not sure we would get. I tried to find a way to offset having to share the room. I would read the comments of people who tried it, and some made it work and some didn't. I thought it would be an obstacle for me here, just because I'm in the Bible Belt. Asking folks to share a room. I might get a, I might get a tongue lashing there, but it does work. But yes, we don't receive that much because it's passive. But I don't mind sharing on one house. Our mortgage is 20. Our mortgage is, I'm sorry, they pay us 3,000 a month and our mortgage is 1,400. And then on another house, our mortgage is 2,500 and we get paid 44 there. I don't mind sharing the numbers just so you can see, so people can, see what happens if you link up with a good organization and kind of help them out. The organization we're helping out, they were putting their people in apartment complexes. And so their neighbors above them and below them and beside them on the left and the right side will complain and always submit written warnings, because you would have a 17 or 18-year-old by themselves in an apartment, and the next month you might have somebody different, or one of them might do something crazy, and so we don't, we tell them, hey, you're good, you have a yard here, you're safe, as long as you pay on time, you're fine. And so they pay us handsomely. We give them free reign to do whatever in the house, and it's a win-win for them. It's a win-win for us.
Big win as an investor too. So that's like a couple thousand, it's, over thousands in cash flow per month just on 2 properties.
Yes.
I just got an email today. So this is pre-recorded for the folks out there. you guys will probably see an email about this. Bigger Pockets put something out today. There's only 4 cities in the country where rents exceed the housing payments. And that's from Bigger Pockets. So that $150 to $300 per month that's gone now with the rising interest rates. So
It is. It is. And I'll share this too, Brandon, if you don't mind.
absolutely.
My wife and I can say the name. So home investors, we buy ugly houses.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. I'm the president of the Richmond City franchisees. And then my wife and I are also members of the Sub 2 community, Pace Morby, and so we have numerous ways that we can purchase a property. And I say it to say, through home investors, we have some very good friends who have their own groups, Joan Small, Jonathan Seiler. If you're from Virginia, you hear those names, you know those names. They are really good friends and they host their own groups, Kevin and Latoya Washington. And just through those groups and Sub 2 and home investors, we hear a lot of complaints from other real estate investors. So it's always sexy for someone to be on Facebook or Instagram showing the before and after of a house. The house looks good, it smells good, but that person's broke because, like you just said, and we know people who do this all the time, they struggle to find a way to make a respectable monthly cash flow on that property. So most of them just by default go to Airbnb. Well, now Airbnb is changing. We have a couple of those. Now that's changing, and you can't just throw an Airbnb up any old where because the HOA might complain and shut you down. If you put it in the wrong side of town, somebody might not want to stay there, and the rules are getting stricter, and the Airbnb visitors have more power. So you can be a perfect host, and they can get you shut down or get a refund. And so you have to find organizations like Group Home Riches or organizations in your research and your marketing that want to help you use a home to fill it up with multiple people so you can get the money you need. Because even real estate investors that hold a house and landlords, they're not making any money either.
Yeah. We acquire off-market properties, probably similar strategies that you guys get. And the majority of the deals that we get are from just landlords that just got sick of it. They got squatters in their property. They can't deal with it. And it's because they were kind of, sold the dream, right? Like, they just they don't know construction. They're not getting the work at the right price. They didn't buy it correctly. And they kind of just inherit a problem. So,
yep.
And there's challenges with this business, like all of them. But you can go through the multiple podcasts that we have, and you'll hear our students talking about how much money that they make. And the majority of them, they start out by leasing, right?
Yeah.
So they're not even getting properties at a discount. They're paying the landlord what they want, and sometimes typically above market rent even. They kind of use that as a negotiating point, and they're still making more money on the properties than the quote unquote real estate investors. So
they are. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's the perfect win-win strategy. And on top of that, as you mentioned, like you're probably one of the very few residential landlords that would even listen to these organizations that you're working with and take these kids in, right?
Yeah, one of the few. We have some friends who see it work, and so they take my wife mostly because they know that I'm going to say, hey, you had a chance to do it with us, but they take my wife like, hey, how do I do this? Or, hey, what's that organization name? And, she'll tell them and she gives them advice, and a lot of that advice we tell them is say, hey, Group Home Riches, that's the way to go. That's the foundation. That is your floor. You start there and everything else will work. But yeah, we, as a landlord also, we're always looking for organizations or even other members of Group Home Riches in our area who need a house to, fulfill their dreams and take care of their clients or occupants or whatever the term is for that company or that field.
Yeah, and we've kind of talked about that. So why don't you have a couple properties where you kind of partnered with the organizations, you're also open to even partnering with operators out there, right? So why don't you speak on that? As a landlord, why would you want to work with a group home operator instead of, just your traditional, renter?
Sure. And I'll keep the answer very simple. I would rather work with a group home operator or someone who wants to rent out or lease my property to do some kind of business because they have multiple opportunities to make income. So it's more likely that they will pay the rent on time, whatever we negotiate. And so, like when you have a family, and I don't want to dismiss families. I'm a dad. My wife and I have 3.5 kids, three that live with us, one that doesn't live with us. And so, I'm a parent. So I understand and I used to have to rent. So I understand the importance of renting houses and homes in the rental market for families and single parents and individuals and young people and anybody. But as a business owner, I feel better. My wife feels better, when the person that we're sitting down talking to about renting the house has a business or they want to use our house, house multiple individuals or to conduct some business because it increase in our minds. It makes us feel better because it increases the odds that they can meet our agreed upon rent. And so we negotiate that rent based on, what they're going to be doing with the house. And we try to come with a number that gets us what we would like and gives them the freedom to do what they need to do without eating up all their profits. And like I said, we're open and we're welcome to it. And most landlords that I know are as well. They vary for everyone that might say, oh, I talked to a landlord and the landlord said no. I talk to landlords who own the house and they never get approached. So, they're looking for people to come and use their house for whatever they want to do. And they don't get approached. So I would say the truth is more so in the middle. If more people who wanted to lease a house or rent a house to use it as a group home reach out to more landlords, then everybody would win.
I think it's all in the approach. And you've mentioned the Facebook group, and that is it's a common challenge that a lot of people face. And for everybody that makes a post, well, not everybody, but you'll see me every now and then pop in when people are like, hey, I can't get a landlord to work with me. I'll say, okay, what have you been doing for marketing? How many organizations do you have ready to go? And then it's crickets. So
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, I have my thoughts on this. I'd like to get your opinion on it though. What do you look for in an operator that you're going to work with? Or do you have any specific questions you ask them? Is there anything specific that you're looking for? Or what does that look like?
I'll tell you what I'm not looking for first. What I'm not looking for is someone that's going to talk me to death, right? When I go buy a house, from when I'm just using arbitrary names here, when Keisha loses her mother and she's gotten over her mother being buried and she has the insurance money and Keisha decides that she wants to sell her mom's house because she doesn't want to deal with it. When I show up, I have comps of the area. I have paperwork showing her where I can write down what my offer is. I show her what other houses in the area that were sold, as is, what they went for and when. And I also have a backup plan written down, where if she needs more time or if she needs help to get stuff out, I have it written down. And so I'm not talking Keisha to death, and Sheena isn't either. And so I'm not looking for someone that comes to look at a house and they come empty handed and they're telling me what they're going to do. Anyone can tell me that. I want them to have a plan. I don't need a full business plan. I mean, at least if you're telling me you're going to use my house to put someone in each room, then at least show me a sketch or show me your business card. Just show me you actually provide the services that you say you're going to provide if you provide the service. Or if this is your first one, then just have a backup plan written down or get my email and say, hey, look, I'm going to email you a backup plan just so you know you're going to get the agreed upon rent. That's what we look for. We had a couple of students. I don't know if I should say their names. I'll just use initials. KD was really, really good. She came to a couple of our houses. One was too big for her, or the closets were too small, I think. And no, the layout was not what she needed. And then the other one, I fired the contractor, so it wasn't finished in her time frame. But she came by. She had business cards. She bought me coffee, which was, pretty cool. She didn't have to, but she did. But she had business cards. She had a plan written out, and she showed me how she would make her money, how she could easily afford whatever we agreed upon, and what her plan was to do another house with me once we do the first one. That was all I had to see. So that's what I look for. And I think that's what any landlord would look for, because once they hear that you can make sure you don't miss any payments and they're going to get their money, then they just want to know how you're doing it and make sure that it's safe and they won't get any 3 or 4 a.m. calls that there's someone, shooting from the house, or there's, naked people, dancing on the tables with the blinds open. As long as you can assure them that, and you have some kind of documentation and proof that you have a decent plan and a good idea, I don't see why the landlords I know would jump on it all day long and go get a house for you until you can start getting your own house.
Yeah, we see that. We see landlords, like, they hear the business plan, they hear the pitch, they'll go build a property or they'll go start a rehab for our people. But it is all in the approach. So it sounds like was it KD?
Hey, her name is KD. Yep.
Yeah, KD. We'll just call her KD. I'm guessing she either had the gold course or had done her research on her own, so she knew all the basics of the business, right? Like, yeah, like she didn't come and like she wasn't asking you questions on how you manage, your houses, or she probably wasn't asking for contacts. She probably already had her referral sources lined up or a waiting list or something like that, right?
She had all of that, and it was so refreshing. Brandon, I'll tell you, like me, I'm a trusting person, and I knew her from the root. So had she come and just got me coffee, I'd have been like, all right, KD, let's make it work. But my wife is not on Facebook. And so, when my wife walked in and saw that KD had stuff written out, business cards, a plan for the next one, time frames, that blew her away. She was so impressed, and it was amazing. And as landlords, it just made us, we talked about her on the ride all the way home, because, it made us feel good. And it reminded us of how prepared we are when we go buy a house or flip a house or set up an Airbnb or set up a rooming situation, whatever. We do the same thing. And when it was reciprocated back on us, it made us feel good. And we would have given her anything she wanted.
If KD was living kind of check to check and she didn't have a big lump sum to put up, rent, deposit, last month's rent and everything like that, would you guys have worked out a partnership agreement with her and let her operate?
Absolutely. Because she can fair. Absolutely.
Right. So folks listening out there, one of the biggest excuse that we get is, oh, I don't have the funds to start, because in their mind, they're thinking I need to get out there and, have 20% to purchase like this big, 5-bedroom property. KD, maybe she bought the gold course, maybe not. The gold course is only $199 at the time of this recording. Maybe it sounds like she had some business cards, but other than that, everything that KD did, she could have done for free. The calls, the marketing, the networking, learning the pitch, learning the business, being confident, being a good person, and then just finding somebody like Lonnie to pitch the idea to. So you guys heard it here live. Okay. You could basically start with little to no money down. But Lonnie, if I came to you, I was completely wet behind the ears, didn't really know the basics, didn't really know, what I was doing. There's no magic words somebody's going to say to get you to, like, one, help them learn the business, 2, teach them how to market, teach them how to manage these things, and on top of that, provide the housing. I'm guessing there's no magic pitch that I could say to get you to want to do that.
No. No. I've had a couple of people come, and my wife too. She actually receives more crazy inquiries than I do, but I've referred people to join the Facebook group and get the gold course. And I've told people, hey, it's only $199. It's cheaper than a pair of Air Max 95s. You have to do this. Like, if you do nothing else, at least join the network where you can find people who are of like minds that you can partner with, right? And so, yeah, if somebody came with looking for some magic or some voodoo, I'd say, hey, go join the course and call me back.
Yeah, let me give me free mentorship, teach me how to do everything, give me a property, and maybe I'll buy you coffee. That's not that's not the way to go.
No, it's not at all. Nah.
All right, awesome. So I want to switch gears a little bit because you have a couple other, endeavors and businesses that I think our folks could really learn from and gain some value from. But first, I see that the color coded bookshelf in the background. You've mentioned it. It's one of your passions. Were you kind of always, were you always a big reader? Were you always like, positive minded, or did you have like a game changing type book that kind of gave you the spark?
A little bit of both. I was always, my parents, and they're still alive. My parents always made my brothers and I read and stay in shape. And they always taught us, and my grandmother too, they always taught us that the first impression counts, but give back, give back, give and help others. But that first impression counts whether you're giving or you're taking. And so I was always a reader, but a couple of my older fraternity brothers, Lee Morgan, Kevin Graves, Irvin Hughes, they really steered me to the self-help category. I used to always read a lot of comics, of course, but I used to always read other books. I enjoyed reading, but they steered me to reading self-help and business books and a lot of books on metaphysics and psychology. And those really, when you combine those with your standard education and just things right and wrongs, people you meet, lessons you learn, it really, you have a chance to apply something you've read and learned every single day in a way that can help you benefit others, or in a way that helps you benefit yourself by having somebody do something for you because they saw something in you that inspired them. And so, yep, my wife keeps the books color coded so they look neat when people walk into the front door. But yes, we read a lot of books. Our kids read a lot of books, and we enjoy reading. We're that weird family that you might see on the beach when everybody's jumping into the water. We're a couple of us are reading books, under an umbrella, but we really
Nice.
enjoy reading. We discuss the books we read as a family.
That's awesome. What's one of the earliest, well, like what's the first kind of game changing type book that sticks out? And then what's a recent one that you've read recently that sticks out?
So the earliest game changing book that I read was Roots. It's
Okay.
not business at all, but Roots by Alex Haley. Just because as a minority, as a black man living in the Southeastern United States, you know, I experienced some racism growing up, but not like my parents and my grandparents and my uncles and my aunts and certainly the ancestors. And so Roots really taught me to be proud of my family, which I guess most people, I won't say most, I was always proud of what my parents did for a living and proud of them and my grandparents, but it really gave me an immense pride and that pride extended to my cousins and my aunts and my uncles. And some people might think it's small, but I'm proud to say that I am close with multiple members of all of my family trees, my mom's parents, my dad's parents, the four trees that come from that. And so Roots really taught me to have a pride about my family, where I come from, and to really have a plan as to where I'm going, and to bring everybody I can with me that ask, can they go? We don't drag anybody, but if someone asks, can they go with you on a journey to something that could be successful, they want to go and they contribute, you bring them. And so Roots did that for me. As far as the most recent book, there's a book by Dr. Frederick Bales, and it's called Your Mind Can Heal You. It's a metaphysical book. It's only 50 something pages, but it literally breaks down the 7 or 8 things that plague any parent, business owner, anybody, whether it could be self-doubt, obesity, a life-threatening illness, not having any money, financial worries, anything. I forgot all 7, but it breaks down like the 7 common things that keep people from reaching some version of their full potential. And it teaches you in each paragraph how to face those things, how to journal and meditate and eat to like get around those things, how to leverage, I shouldn't say leverage, but how to leverage your kids or your spouse or your parents, somebody you can talk to help keep you from getting in a funk. And that book really helps. I mean, when I read that book twice a year, every year. And I finished reading it for the 30th time a few weeks ago. And when I read that book, I leave the house feeling like if I got hit by a bus, the bus might crash. I'd be okay. I feel like a superhero when I read that book. And Your Mind Can Heal You by Frederick Bales. It just teaches you how to train your brain's a muscle. It teaches you how to feed and train that muscle, just like you do your biceps or your calf muscles. And then once you have that, you're able to kind of maneuver through the day, not better than anybody else, not easier, but you're able to maneuver, and the blows that we all take in life just won't hurt as hard. And so, I love those books, and those were the 2 books that if anybody asked me, bring up first.
Love it. I haven't heard of the one by Dr. Bales, but just the title alone, that's proven like every day in science, the placebo effect.
Yes. Yep.
Bingo. Now, my game changer was Think and Grow Rich. And when I was younger, I used to always look at that stuff as like, man, that's corny. Like my mom was always into The Secret, right? Like she would read that and I'd hear her and her friends talking about it. And I was just like, this is the corniest, like woo-woo stuff I've ever heard of, right? But I was wrong. And doing like a ton of networking, real estate, business stuff. My question to you, you do the same, right? Home investors. I'm sure you're very, networking real estate,
yes,
wealthy individuals. Anybody that's like highly successful that isn't into that type of stuff?
No, not at all.
They're all into it, right?
They're all into it. They're all into it. They're not only are they all into it, but everybody tries their best to implement what they read from those books as much as they can, as many days as possible. And that's what I'm a firm believer that's the biggest difference between, some people who do it well and some people who do it beyond well. Just a positive outlook, just trying and taking the time to implement a few different things that someone else didn't do, and then sharing the information. The only way to keep it is to give it away. And so, just giving away the information, giving away things, helping people out, and having a positive outlook while you're doing it. Everybody I know does it.
100%. Same. So I've been on both sides of the fence, wasn't always successful, wasn't always into the woo-woo stuff is what I call it. I'm totally into it now. So I'm making fun of myself, but it's kind of like if you're listening to a podcast like this and you're interested in doing this or real estate, or even if you're looking into like other ventures and you just find yourself thinking like, oh, that's a scam. Like that's not going to work for me, even though there's like multiple success stories, right? Or even if you've tried like a lot of stuff and, you've been unsuccessful on it, chances are you probably don't need a course. You don't need the gold course. You don't need coaching or anything like that. If you got a negative mindset, that stuff's not going to work no matter what you do. So I can just tell by like an email that I get from somebody. I'm like, look, don't buy the gold course. Go listen to this free audio book and then you come back. Like, cause you could just tell some people just are like negative mindset, negative frequency. So that's the first step. So that's really cool and you can tell just by talking to you that you're into stuff like that. So very cool. So yeah, folks, if you're instant, like default, you hear like, oh, that's not going to work for me. Drop what you're doing. Don't get the gold course, no coaching, nothing. Go read Your Mind Can Heal You by Dr. Frederick Bales. It's all similar, all related, but I'm definitely going to check that one out. So very cool. I had to ask you that with the the color coded bookshelf that I'm looking at.
Hey, all props to my wife Sheena for that. It was her idea. If it was up to me, they'd be in stacks on the floor.
Yeah.
But yeah, she'd be glad to hear that.
Cool. Yeah. So you do a lot of reading, sports, fathering, real estate investing, the group home stuff. Why don't you tell us about the kind of the other endeavors as far as credit repair and financing? Because that's something that a lot of the people out there, they could get a ton of value from that. Probably like bad credit and things like that are probably holding a lot of people back. So why don't we touch on that a little bit before we wrap things up?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So yes, I started out with credit repair about 15, 16 years ago out of necessity. I'm a junior, Lonnie R. Grady Jr. My dad is senior. And because neither one of us for a long time really made it a point to put the senior and the junior, our suffixes at the end of our name, a lot of my dad's credit, good and bad, was on my credit because we have the same name and we have the same address. Well, we had the same address, when I was growing up. And so it wasn't a thing where he used my social or that was just same name, same address. You didn't have computers back then. So it was easy for someone with the same name or a similar name to get stuck with someone else's credit, good or bad. And so out of that necessity, when I went and tried to get my first condo or my first car, and my grandma had to co-sign for me because my credit was bad and I had never used it. I didn't know what happened. I didn't understand it. Through that, I just dug deep. I got angry. I dug deep. I was embarrassed. I was 25, I had to call my grandma. And so, mom and dad were paying for college for my brother at the time, so they couldn't help me there. But, being embarrassed, I just dug in and learned everything I could about credit at the time. And as it changes, I learned that too. And so by doing that, I started repairing the credit of my frat brothers and getting myself to a 700 score. I started doing it for other people. And then eventually I made more than I did as a teacher, and I left teaching and I had my own credit repair company. Well, I learned that when you have it's probably 720 now, but back then when you had a 700 or above, you were invincible. You were like, I watch superhero stuff. You were almost like one of the Avengers. If you wanted something, you go in the bank, you show your paycheck stubs, you get it. And so, that was powerful. And so by doing that, it brought me joy and a lot of money to help people repair their credit so they too can enjoy that power and that freedom. By doing that, I started studying banks because I would meet people who I fixed their credit, and I would meet them in person later. And, we would eat and talk, and, I had a nice car. I typically always had one, and I was paying cheaper per month than they were. Well, it's because they didn't understand how lending works. Lending on a house, car, credit card, unsecured loan. They didn't understand that. So, I started teaching people that. And then after a while, that turned into helping people secure funding for their startups and then for their businesses, whether they're a sole proprietor or a corporation. And so I've been doing that since 2012, and that has been very good for me, and it helped subsidize, me becoming a member of, Home Investors, which I love. We buy ugly houses, and my wife and I own a franchise there, and it helped me and my partners, Titus and Mark Key, my fraternity brother, and my partner Chris. It helped us start numerous companies that we started by helping people and getting paid handsomely to do so. And so, that's also what I do in addition to real estate investing. And I just enjoy teaching people and helping them fix their credit and then helping them secure the financing they need to get things started, to restart, or to grow.
And what are the someone out there, they're wanting to start a group home benefits, what would be the advantages of having a great credit score compared to, let's pretend someone's got, their credit shot, what's the differences going to be like?
Sure, sure. So if your credit is shot, you can make it, but your options will be limited and you'll be up early and you'll be up late because you have to grind just that much harder. I'll give you a live example. Let's say that, my wife and I both have above 780 scores. We keep it there. We fight. I dropped below 750 a couple of months ago because I had closed an account. I went and got another one as fast as I could. And she was fussing at me until I went and opened one. And so, we watch it every month. That's tip number one. Watch your credit every month. Pay for it. I don't care if it's $29.99, $19.99. You pay and you watch your credit every single month. Well, let's say that I go buy a house. I buy a house as is, an ugly house. I buy ugly houses. I buy an ugly house. And let's say that James buys an ugly house. When we fix the house up, if you're going to flip it, okay, you're fine. It'll cost him more money. It'll cost him higher interest and more money down to secure lending if he gets it at all. Whereas me, I can get that house with no money out of my pocket. Nothing at all. We go close. My wife and I, we sign. We own the house. They give us the rehab money too. They might give James 60% of the rehab money. He might have to bring $5,000 to closing. So that right there is one difference when you have good credit versus when you don't have good credit, when your credit is trash. Another difference would be when you go to refinance a property. When you finish it, or you want to turn that the money it costs to buy it and the money it costs to fix it, you want to turn that amount into a 30-year loan. If it costs 100 to buy it and you spend 50 to fix it, you want to turn that 150 into a 30-year loan. That's your mortgage. That number you need to beat every month to make income. If your credit is trash, then you might not be able to turn it into a 30-year loan at all. Your only option might be to sell it. Whereas if your credit is great, you can turn that into a low 30-year mortgage, and you don't have to make as much to make a good spread in between the mortgage and what you bring in every month in rent, group home, Airbnb, whatever you do. Or when you go flip it, you made more money without bringing any money to the table because your credit was good. And so the money you borrowed was cheaper. And so those are just 3-4 examples, just using one small scenario where a person with bad credit paid more money, made less money, and had to really work to ask for a whole lot more per month than me or my wife would because our credit is good. We got the same house, no money down. It cost us less to borrow the money to fix it, and we didn't have to ask for much because our mortgage is $1,100. You had bad credit. If you got refinanced, yours was $2,000, and the numbers really are that stark. And so, I can profit $1,000 a month, off of 2,100, where 2,100 makes you 100 a month. It's not even worth it anymore. And so that's where credit is important. That's where you should fight, get your credit fixed. Doesn't matter how much it costs, what you have to do, watch it every month. Your credit is important. Your credit being good can lead you to having a fun and fantastic life. And your credit opens the doors to everything. And it's the biggest investment you can make into yourself and your family. It's having a good credit score.
Beautiful. If someone out there, let's say their credit is shot, what's the process like, working with you as far as credit repair?
Sure. If someone's credit is shot, then I ask them to sign up for a credit monitoring service. Identity IQ, Experian.com, Credit Karma, any of them work. We prefer, most people who do credit repair prefer Experian or Identity IQ, but we ask for access to your credit report, whether it's a PDF of the report or we ask for a login. Hey, just let us log in. You get a code to your phone so you know it's us, and we'll go in and we'll look at it. And then what usually happens, depending on who fixes the credit, we send a small, we used to do a big report, and people don't read. They don't want to read. They just want you to fix it. But whether it's an email or report, we send back a list of things that need to go off. That's Part one, bad things have to come off, inquiries, negative accounts, late payments. And then we have to put good stuff on most of the time too. If you having no credit, the same thing from a bad credit. So a lot of people don't understand that if they take off the bad stuff, your score is not going to jump up if you don't have other good things there. You have to show some payment history, preferably a house, a car, a credit card, and something else. But if you don't have a house, then rent or a car, 2 credit cards, some combination of 4 accounts that you're paying for on time every month. And most people don't have that. So we have to help them build that up and put that on. So we tell them where to go to add a rent to their credit report. And mind you, this is after the bad stuff has come off. So we get the bad things off, right? Now, how do we do that? We do dispute letters. I don't mind sharing it at all. If people could do it, they wouldn't come to me with bad credit. They're not going to do it. And, we use dispute letters, get the bad things off. We fix the errors in their credit report. If your name is spelled wrong, if you're a junior, if you're a senior, it's not there. There's so many errors in the credit report. People don't realize they don't know how to read it because we didn't learn it in school. And so, we fix the errors, get rid of the bad stuff, help them build good stuff on, and then we go shopping. We say, hey, you're a sole proprietor, or do you have a LLC, or are you trying to get into investing or whatever? If you need money, if you want to, we can help you find the money to do those things. If not, hey, your credit's great. Don't mess it up if you do come back.
So it's not like they need to be proactive, right? It's not like they pay you, they sit back, and in a month or two you kind of make things vanish, right? They have to work with you, follow up on your guidance. And what's the timeline, like, roughly? Like, how long does it typically take your average person that's working with you, that's being proactive? How long does it take for someone to be like shot to like, all right, now you got decent credit?
But I'm gonna give you a wide time frame. I'm gonna tell you why. Someone who is sharp, who's proactive, who gets me everything I need for my assistants. I have staff there who gets me and my assistants everything we need, who answers the phone when we call, if we call, and reply to our texts, they get us their documents in a timely fashion. It can be as fast as 30 days. On average, it's 90.
Really?
Yes, absolutely. If someone is
to see
really,
like a significant increase in score?
it depends if they have. So that's a double-edged sword. So credit repair has 2 parts: getting off the bad stuff and putting good stuff on. If they only had bad stuff, or the average credit report that I see, they'll have some bad stuff and a bunch of student loans. So when the bad stuff comes off, the student loans in that one car is not enough to get you to 700.
Oh, I got you. So you can remove the negative stuff within like 30 to 60, 90 days.
Yes.
And then from there, it's about establishing the good credit. And then
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. That takes a little more time. It can be fast if somebody has the resources and they're aggressive. We do try to be aggressive, but everyone's not ready for that. But typically to put good stuff on after the bad stuff has been removed, that takes another, 2 to 3 months.
Very cool. And then of course from there, it's like an ongoing process, right?
Right. Once we're finished, they have the score, 700 and above, 720 preferably and above. And then, if they want to, and if they're done, they're done. If they want to do their own thing. Or if they say, hey, my credit's good, help me find some money for my endeavors, then we can do that too.
Cool. Let's talk about that, because that's something that we get inquiries about all day long. You probably see it in the Facebook group, people that need funds either for, just a lease, furniture, supplies, or even folks that, they're doing all the marketing. Maybe they got a home or two, but they're looking to expand. They want to start purchasing properties. Why don't you tell them about, talk to that for a little bit? Like, they've cleaned up their credit, and now you can also help them get, financing for things.
Sure, absolutely. So the people that are listening, they may have heard of how we do it. They may have heard of the term credit stacking or getting somebody funded, that kind of thing, indirect lending. But essentially, if you look online and if you look on Craigslist or on Facebook, the way it's advertised fraudulently and it's advertised irresponsibly. What my company, Strategic Funding, my partners, Chris, Keyrod, Antonio, what we do is you're paying us for information, and I don't mind talking about it because if someone wants to figure it out, great, go right ahead. We should have learned it in school anyway. It doesn't matter. We know 95% of the banks in the country, they pull a certain credit bureau when it comes to anything other than your mortgage. Your mortgage requires, it's a different process. It requires all three credit bureaus being pulled. And so that's different. But when it comes to personal loans, small business loans, your car loan, your credit card, a secured card, things of that nature, usually depending on what bank you go to, one credit bureau will be pulled, right? So to people like me, that's common knowledge. So, like right now, my TransUnion is 800. My Experian and my Equifax are 780s. So if I were going to go out and get a car right now, I would go to a bank or use a lender that would pull my TransUnion because I would get a slightly lower interest rate because I have an 800 there versus a 780 on the other two. It's no different for helping people get cash. And so what we do, if someone were to come to me or, message me or inbox me or whatever and say, hey, I'm trying to secure some money to start in real estate investing or to pay for the furniture for my group home, which don't forget, you get used furniture. So you don't need that much for furniture, don't forget that it's in the ebook. But, or that kind of thing, some capital to sustain them while they're trying to fill the rooms with the beds up. If someone came to me and said, hey, I need $50,000, I could look at their credit or look at their income and say, hey, look, you don't make a lot of money. No one's going to give you 50,000 at one time, but we can go to a bank that pulls Experian and a bank that pulls Equifax and get you 25 each. And now you have your 50. And then people always ask me, well, hey, how do you get paid? We get paid on the back end. So once you have your money in your account and once you have set up, an online presence with that bank, then we charge you on the back. We charge a success fee, and that success fee varies depending on, how difficult person is. And Brandon, you wouldn't believe how difficult some people can be when you're trying to get them all the money they ask for.
I used to work in loan origination, so I get it.
Yeah. So yeah. So people, so people who are listening to this, they would think that if you or me are telling someone that we can use our knowledge to help them get funded, and they would be on it. And you call someone and say, hey, I need a paycheck stuff. They don't reply. They don't send it. They don't answer their phone. The person at the bank, they're like, hey, I thought this person, because we talk to the bank. We don't do it underground, behind the scenes, using proxies to hide our identity. Like Chris walks into the bank and lets them know what we're doing. I email the bank like, hey, Steve, I have someone I'm referring. They need a loan. I'm going to send you the information later on. Hey, when you call them, hey, they know what to say. They love it. People in the banks make more money because we bring them great clients that know how to pass a bank interview, to have all the documents. The people love us because we got them there by starting their credit months ago. And they didn't know that this bank existed and pulled this bureau. And so we do that, provide a success fee. We only charge at the end for the funding. And, we've done thousands of clients since 2009.
Beautiful. So yeah, so folks out there, even if your credit's shot, it's basically a one-stop shop.
Yeah.
Come get the credit repaired. That might take a couple months. And then from there, he could get you financing if you need it. And everything, we're all about giving people options, right? Like you've mentioned it, like, hey, you guys can go learn this stuff yourself, right? You don't necessarily need cash, but cash always helps things quicker, right? Like if you want to do things really quickly, sometimes you got to pay for that, right? Or you could research this stuff over the next year or two before starting the group home business, or you could pay somebody like Lonnie. Same with the gold course, right? You could probably figure this stuff out the hard way on your own, but pay for the shortcut, get the gold course or the coaching or what have you. And even multiple different strategies. If you got a ton of cash, you could go purchase the property first, then start marketing. If you're check to check, you can do the legwork and then approach somebody like Lonnie for a partnership. So a ton of options out there for folks, literally no excuses. If this sounds like the perfect business for you, no excuses, right? And you have us, me, Andy, the whole team. We're ready to help. If you guys have any questions, oh, I love it. He's got a t-shirt on that says "Destroy Excuses." Beautiful. Yeah. So, Lonnie, where can people find you? And any last words or anything you want to leave for the folks? Let them have it.
Yeah, sure. If you're listening, well, first let me say, hey, Brendan, thank you for the opportunity. And like I said, just being, like I said, the way I was raised, we give back. My brother, I have one brother that's dead, but my brothers and I, we always give back. We believe in that. So thanks for the opportunity for having me on to share anything that could possibly help, anyone that's listening. And thanks for the information that I have learned from Group Home Riches, because it's added to my business. And so I really appreciate that. And thank you. If anybody's listening and they're in the group, well, my name is Lonnie R. Grady Jr. on Facebook. If you're in the Group Home Riches Facebook group, I come right up. I'm in Virginia, so it should be easy to find me, in the group. If you're not in the group, then I have a website, strategicfunding.biz. You can send an inquiry there and one of my assistants will get it to me, or you can schedule a 15-minute consultation. And, I love talking and Zooming and everything. So I'm not hard to find and I'm easy to reach. And I give away lots of stuff for free, but what you pay for, you just have to pay for.
Well, thank you for coming on, man. Like I said, we don't put our faces out there. We want our successful students to be the face. So this is why we do it, man. We love hearing people like yourself that just take it, run with it, take quick action. And then within a couple months, you're just rocking and rolling. So we love to see it. And thank you for coming on, man. We packed a ton of game into this interview, folks. Partnerships, how to start with no money, how to get your credit repaired, how to get financing. Definitely rewind this one. Take some notes. And if you guys have any questions, you can reach out to us at grouphomeriches.com. We have a ton of products that can help you guys streamline your business. And I've always recommend people, hey, start for free. Email us. We have a free email service. We get back to everybody within 24 business hours. If you have any questions, that's not just Gold Course students. Anybody out there listening, shoot us an email. Bare minimum, sign up for the free training material. That's at grouphomeriches.com. If you guys are just, discovering us on Spotify or iTunes or what have you. And yeah, if it sounds like the right business for you, bare minimum, sign up for that gold course. At the time of recording, it does come with private membership in the Facebook group. You heard Lonnie mention it a couple of times. It's mentioned often in the podcast. Ton of value. We're almost 3,000 members in there. I see deals go on in there, partnerships. I think, Lonnie, you said you found some folks to partner with on there. It's thriving community, a ton of value. Man, great information. Lonnie, I'm glad we were able to connect. Thank you so much. And we look forward to working with you, man.
Man, thank you too. I really appreciate it.
All right. Have a great day, man.
All right. You too.